The Great Famine hit Europe like a nightmare in the early 1300s, a disaster no one saw coming. Between 1315 and 1322, Europe faced a massive crisis that wasn't just a food shortage. It was a fight for survival. Unseasonably heavy rains and bitter cold wrecked crops across the continent. Fields flooded, crops rotted, and the harsh weather conditions made it impossible for farmers to grow enough food. People were suddenly faced with a horrifying reality. There simply wasn't enough to eat, and it was only getting worse. As if the crops weren't enough of a tragedy, disease also swept through the livestock. Animals, crucial for farming and food production, died in droves, leaving farmers even more helpless. With food in such short supply, grain prices skyrocketed. Those who had money could buy, but the poor were left starving, unable to afford even the basic sustenance needed to survive. It was a nightmare, where hunger wasn't just a feeling, it was the slow, painful reality of life for millions. As the famine deepened, the misery only multiplied. People who were weak from hunger couldn't fight off diseases, and sickness spread like wildfire. In some cases, the desperate resorted to extreme measures, turning to crime and even cannibalism to stay alive. Desperation pushed people to their limits, as survival became the only thing on their minds. Communities fractured under the pressure, and survival instincts took over in a way that had never been seen before. This wasn't just a struggle for food, it was a turning point in European society. The famine created unrest, with riots and protests erupting as people demanded action from the ruling classes. The feudal system, which had held Europe together for centuries, started to crumble under the weight of such widespread suffering. In England, the aftermath of this catastrophe led to more famines and widespread anger among the peasants, pushing them closer to rebellion. It was a critical moment in history, where the foundations of old systems began to weaken. The church, which was often the first line of support for people in need, was unable to help in this crisis. As food and resources dwindled, the church's authority was questioned, and many people began to lose their faith. Superstition spread like wildfire as people turned to dark rituals in hopes of warding off the horrors they faced. Doubts about religion's ability to protect or provide grew, and Europe's spiritual landscape began to change. The seeds of distrust were planted, and the consequences would be felt for generations. The Great Famine wasn't just an isolated event, it set the stage for even darker days to come. With Europe already devastated by years of crop failures, disease, and social unrest, the stage was set for the next unimaginable disaster, the Black Death. In the years that followed, the plague would hit, claiming millions of lives and further shaking the foundations of European society. The scars left by the famine would forever change Europe's future. The Great Famine was a nightmare that changed Europe forever, setting the stage for even darker days ahead. It's a grim reminder of how fragile our world can be and how quickly life can turn from abundance to chaos. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories from history's most shocking moments.